Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 3 of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. Here at the home of British Motorsport, Silverstone at the National Circuit for what is going to be an exciting 3 races. My name is Alex Goldschmidt, and joining me in the booth is Phil Kinch. Evening, Phil.
Good evening, sir. How are we?
Not too bad at all. Glad to have Phil alongside me as we are going to have 3 action-packed races around the 1.369 mile circuit, which has been in the BTCC since 1959. And Phil, there's been a lot of interest in this. We've got around 28 or so competitors. We've had some developments since the previous round at Brands Hatch Indy, but touring cars, one of your favourite kind of motorsport, isn't it?
It is. It's something I've enjoyed since a young lad, I'll be honest and show the age. So I originally started watching the BTCC back in 1988. Plenty of grey hairs there. And I absolutely love touring cars in all their various forms. So really looking forward to this evening and seeing what action we've got in front of us.
Definitely. There were quite a few incidents that were actually reported. Fitting 29 cars around Brands Hatch Indy last time around really didn't help anybody, most notably Ben Hamlet, who has been suspended since that. But coming into this round, Sam Fowler leads the standings on 83 points ahead of Chris Butcher, with Dan Cal, Mike Bell, Lewis McGlade rounding out the top 5, ahead of Max Tad, Matt Richards, Kieran Shanks, and Scott Sovic, who was actually replaced for this round by Lorenzo Tuzzi, I think it is. And we also have Scott Mitchell from Kings Racing rounding out the top 10 with 37 points. We look a little bit further down the standings as qualifying has been completed as they're on their warm-up ahead of the first of 3 races here at Silverstone National. So, well, we've got the practice results there, but currently in warm-up at the moment, Scott Mitchell, who is with the race. His teammate, obviously you might know him, Jack Nichols, currently running P4 in the qualification results. So it's Kieran Shanks from Frammy Autosport, who actually have Tom Edmonds from KR Sport in karting. I've commentated on him through the Rotax racing circles. He was ahead by just 0.086, Kieran ahead of Matt Richards. Then you've got Matthew Clipp, Jack Nichols, Scott Mitchell making a Mercedes 4.5. Mike Bell from Smile Power Racing rounding out the top 6 ahead of Lewis McGlade. Chris Butcher, Costas Avram, and Dan Cal rounding out the top 10, separated by just over 3.3 tenths of a second. We look a bit further down the order for qualification. So, Phil, pretty tight at the top there, just 3 tenths in it. Not much really to speak about in qualifying, but as they say, times are to show, points are to go, aren't they?
Exactly. It's a very close field. All credit to Kieran Shanks. Looking at the actual lap record from last year when the BTCC raced at Silverstone, Jason Place's pole position time in qualifying was a 57.4. So the fact that Kieran's managed to get a 57.8, very close to the real thing. Really impressed by that.
Yeah, so we look at the top 20, Toby Davis, Max Tad, Lorenzo Turi, Daniel Slattery and Robert Strachan round out the top 15 ahead of Option 13 SimSports, Aidan Millward, Sean King, Tom Edmonds, the newcomer, the number 15 from Frammy Autosport, Ben Brown from Cam Sport in 19th ahead of Sam Fowler from SRR Motorsport. Then we head to the last of the 28 strong racing here at Silverstone. Ben Willis, Alexander van der Voorde, Chris Wilson, Daniel Hyde, Tommy Foster, and then the E-Team Brit trio of Sandro Ballesteros, Max Spooner, and Bradley Brockies. And Phil, it's going to be an interesting one here because the field is quite concertinaed. And even though it's 1.64 miles here at Silverstone National, there's just a handful of corners. But even though going through Maggots and coming down the Wellington straight down to Brooklands is a true test, especially when you've really got a late break here.
It's especially that, and as you say, going into Maggots, you've got the first pinch point really of the first lap when everyone's going to be braking hard, trying to find position and get through Beckett's in one piece. So Brooklands again is going to be another pinch point for the first lap. So there's going to be a lot of jostling about, I think, in the first lap, and people trying to find where they can fit in and make sure the car's still in one piece by the end of lap 1.
Yeah, we're coming into the end of the warm-up session. 3 races here. A win will score you 20 points, and you get a pole position pole position point. My apologies there. I've been talking on so much touring cars, and we've got another 3 races to go. But if you're in the top 15 and you are classified, Phil, you also get the benefit of a fastest lap point. Now, this will make a little bit of a difference when we get to the latter rounds. Say, for instance, you head towards Knock Hill, pending, Knock Hill, Silverstone International, and then obviously Brands Hatch Grand Prix, because those points, even just a 1 point, it's going to make all the difference, isn't it?
It is. That's very true. Every point scored is important. I stand by one of the drivers I followed for many years, which is Andy Prio. His philosophy has always been, if you can get another point, if you can push another place, go for it. So every point you can score, as soon as in the season as possible, is going to pay out later on in the year.
Definitely. Well, this is the amended grid post-qualification, as the raft of penalties that I've just had a look at and nearly fainted at. Matt Richards will start on pole position. Matthew Clipp will be alongside. Then it's Jack Nicholls, Mike Bell and Lewis McGlade that ran out the top 5, ahead of Chris Butcher, Dan Kell, Toby Davis and Scott Mitchell, with Lorenzo Turi. The replacement for Scott Stovic on this particular round will start in 10th place. Kieran Shanks, Daniel Slattery, Sean King, Tom Edmonds, Ben Brown, Sam Fowler, Ben Willis, Adrian Millward, Alexander van der Voorde, Chris Wilson round out the top 20, ahead of Tommy Foster, Costas Avram, Sandro Ballesteros, Max Spooner, Robert Strachan, Bradley Brockies, Max Tad and Daniel Hyde at the back end of the grid. Now that's really shaken things up, Phil. And even though some drivers are going to have ballast, if they've got the permutation of good grip under the 4 contact patches we call tyres, it's going to be pretty difficult to that. And good to see that Simon Still's joining us on the Simply Race YouTube channel. Yes, a bit of a shout out for Toby Davis, a former superkart driver, no less. And I know that Simon, who's watching at home, thank you very much, Simon, for joining us, amongst hopefully with all of those that will be joining us a bit later on during the broadcast proceedings here at Silverstone National, virtually speaking. But it looks like, Phil, we've got a sunny day of racing ahead, 24 degrees, both air and track temperature. And it's always nice when the sun shines down at Silverstone, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's always a beautiful day at Silverstone when the sun is out and shining. Again, that's going to be part of the equation for the drivers to try and cope with temperature, with tyres, modulating the tyre grip as best as they can make it last, as well as racing as hard as they can, because quite simply we're on one of the faster configurations of the circuits during the year. So quite a lot of challenges ahead for what looks like a fairly simple circuit to race on.
Well, they're all gridding up on the start-finish line here ahead of race 1 out of 3 here at Silverstone National. It's going to be an interesting one. Some drivers, we will wait for them to end up on the grid. Drivers can choose one of the option tyres, so it will be soft tyre here at Silverstone before the hard option will be the only tyre used at the next round when we head to Thruxton on the 7th of July in just 2 weeks' time. They're lining up on the grid, Phil. This is where the tension mounts, isn't it, as we wait for the lights to go out.
This is it. This is where the nerves kick in and everyone's preparing, getting ready to go. It's almost race time.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your hats as the virtual crowds are in the stands waiting to cheer their favourites on here. So we will have the formation lap. So off and away they go. A bit of wheel spin from Matt Richards on the front wheels of the Sancho Simsport Ford Focus. So here is your starting order. Sancho Simsport's Matt Richards will start on pole position, and Cadan Casual Apex's Matthew Clipp will be alongside. Then it's Jack Nicholls from Kings Racing and Smile Power Racing's Mike Bell on row 2. Row 3, it's Lewis McGlade from Sancho Simsport and Chris Butcher from Smile Power Racing. Dan Kell from Sancho Simsport and Toby Davis from Davis Racing will round out the top 8. Completing the top 5 rows will be Scott Mitchell in the 22 from Kings Racing and Smile Power Racing's substitute for Scott Sovic, Lorenzo Turi in the 55. Then it's Kieran Shanks and Daniel Slattery for row 6. Row number 7, it's Sean King and Tom Edmonds. That's a good shout for the number 15 for Frammy Autosport, making his VMO TCUK debut here at the home of British Motorsport, ahead of Ben Brown and Sam Fowler. Ben Willis and Aidan Millward will be on row number 9, ahead of Alexander van der Voorde and Chris Wilson, who completes the top 20. Then 21st to 24th, it is Tommy Foster, Costas Avram, Sandro Ballesteros and Max Spooner. And rounding out the 28 strong, the lineup is as follows. We will have Robert Strachan, Bradley Brockies, Max Tad and Daniel Hyde completing the 28 strong grid. That's a heck of a lot of horsepower here at Silverstone, wouldn't you agree, Phil?
It is. That's a lot. It's going to be a busy grid. It's going to be a really busy first lap. I'm really looking forward to seeing how these guys can manage this.
Well, we're about set to find out here for the first round of round 3. This will be round 7, 8 and 9 here at the home of British Motorsport in Silverstone. So Richards on the right-hand side of your screen is on pole position with Clipp alongside in the MG. 22 laps, per race here at Silverstone awaits. Here we go. They're ready. The green flag will wave. We'll get things underway here at the home of British Motorsport. And we are lights out and away we go. Yellow in sector 3 already, so there's been possibly an issue back at the back part of the field, as it looks like we've got some moves happening there as Matthew Klipp has dropped down already. Mike Bell's got past him already as someone's been fired off of Copse very, very quickly there as they go through into Maggots for the first time. And look at the gap already, as Matt Richards now has a 1 second gap over Mike Bell, and everyone else is tripping all over each other's tyres. Lewis McGlade is now behind Matthew Klipp. Butcher in now 6th place behind Davis. Shanks in 7th. Kell, Turri and Nichols. That is your top 10. Mitchell and Slattery round out the top 12, followed by King, Fowler, Avram, who's just got past Fowler, and they're swapping positions, are the 27 and the 26th here on lap number 1. But Phil, already a quick getaway from Matt Richards and the Sancho Sim Sport Focus.
Very clever start from Matt Richards as well. He angled the car for pole position as he came to the end of the warm-up lap and was ready and looking for a clean start off the line. Really impressed by the start and the gap he's managed to pull out. Matt Klipp's obviously dropped down a place to 3rd. So again, it's really, really clever driving from Matt Richards. Let's see if they can close up the gap on the following laps.
So on lap 1 already, we had Tom Edmonds actually become our first retirement of the race. Here's a replay. So let's have a look. There is Alexander van der Voorde in the 38, and you can just see one of the cars braking traction on the rear end underneath. And I'm not too sure who that was. I didn't quite catch it. That was the number 27 vehicle, and that was of Fowler. Hang on a second. I'm just having a look. That is Sam Fowler, and then all of a sudden, the 68 gets clobbered. So Fowler's missing a front bumper. Tad gets past, and the 2E team Brit cars get through too. So drama already on the first lap. Don't forget that some of the E-Team Brit drivers, which include Sandro Ballesteros and Max Spooner, who is their team manager, they're racing in this, but they've just completed the iRacing 24 Hours of Le Mans with Armani Williams, Austin Riley, and also Bobby Trundley, finishing P23 out of P50. The whole team was pretty much up for the 24 hours, and now they're in for 3 races of hard action here at Silverstone. Richards now has a half-second lead ahead of Bell. Klipp not too far behind. McGlade has dropped the rest of them, which is being led by Chris Butcher, who's been running in the, if memory serves me correctly, the E-Team Brit GT3 Challenge, and he won the inaugural round last time out at Donington Park just last Friday. As there's a move from Bell up the inside of Richards for the lead. Now, has he got through? Yes, he has, and he's just got through Brooklands and Luffield as they come round to complete now what is going to be lap number 4 here. So we had a yellow in sector 3. Phil, the top 16 are just 9.5 seconds adrift of each other as Millwall gets past King for P15, but Bell now has struck once the iron's hot. But it's one thing to get the lead, it's another thing to keep a hold of it.
He's got to be able to hold it, as you say. Bell's now the leader, and he's also the one offering the slipstream to both Richards and Klipp. So Richards has a chance to try and fight back here. Bell used a classic overtaking move going into Brooklands, which is well recognised, so he's done a great job. He's now got to stay in front. He's going to be pulling the other 2 along, and McGlade's not far behind either. Yes,
Lewis McGlade is actually putting in some really good laps, but the fastest lap of this race is actually from the leader at the moment, 58.282 from Mike Bell, but he's got Richards breathing all over his back bumper like a rash. There's Jack Nichols and also Scott Mitchell. Jack in the primarily yellow-coloured car, with Scott just behind in the primarily blue-coloured Mercedes A45s. Just behind Scott is Toby Davis. So Nichols and Mitchell making some good progress are the 2 Kings Racing drivers. And one of the things here is Bell about to go up the inside again on Richards, through into Copse to retake the lead once again. But Phil, again, it's cat and mouse between these 2 as we go on board with the front bumper cam. Nice angles here from our friends at Simply Race, as there goes Richards up the inside. And one of the things is, that's a cutback and a half, isn't it?
That was very close and also very nicely done as well. At the end of the day, these guys are very evenly matched. It's very clear. So it's all about making sure who's in front in the last lap. They can jostle backwards and forwards as they can as possible, with Klipp obviously being involved himself still in the fight for the lead. As they come into Brooklands, it's really interesting to see they're trying to make moves forwards. Richards himself trying to get past Klipp where he can and going around the outside. An impressive move if he can pull this off. and we'll hold on to see if he can. I think Clip's defended this well. In the meantime, it's just giving Bell the chance to go and build a gap and break the toe from the two behind.
Yeah, I think the other car that actually went flying for cops on turn 1 on lap 1 was Dan Kell in the 89 Sancho SimSport Ford Focus. So he's all the way down the order. So he's DNF'd along with Tom Edmonds. So we'll see them back for race 2. Lap 7 of 22 here. Bell is leading, and he's pulled a gap of 0.7 of a second over Clip, who has been doing a great job over Richards. And here comes Kieran Shanks. Now, Shanks was the double winner back at Brands Hatch just a couple of weeks ago. So he's now in the slipstream. There's been a BOP issue to all rear-wheel drive cars. They've got a 15-kilo ballast coming into this race. And also the other two, as there's a little bit of a love tap from behind from Richards on Clip as Shanks goes towards the outside. That's brave if he keeps it planted right there in the Subaru Levorg GT. But Richards still has the inside run coming out of the corner. Good job, though, by Kieran Shanks there, even though with the 15-kilo BOP, Phil.
Yeah, definitely. He's the highest rear-wheel drive car so far, and he is definitely in the mix as well. As I said, in the meantime, Bell's escaping. He's breaking this. He's breaking these three as the trio of Clip, Richards, and Shanks fight for second. And again, Shanks closes on Richard. He's really pushing the focus. Wouldn't be surprised if he tries another move going to Maggots and Beckett soon.
Yep, as they come through, and again, he's kept it round the outside of Shanks. But that was brave. Richards sends it up the inside in the focus. Lewis McGlade is now being closed on by Jack Nichols. Coming down the Wellington Straight, heading towards Brooklands. So the Mercedes in the toe of the focus. And interestingly enough, that the gap between Nichols and McGlade is less than 0.2 of a second. Oh, bit of a Scandinavian flick there through Brooklands by Matt Richards there, trying to keep the car stopped. It's a little bit further back. There is one of the other cars. That is the number 34 of Toby Davis, who's got the Team Hard colours on the car, while also on the front of the vehicle. So he's got the duo of both Chris Butcher and Lorenzo Turri behind. That rounds out the top 10 as the move gets made by Nichols on McGlade through Cops. Brilliant move by Jack Nichols to send it up the inside of the focus. And here comes Butcher on Davis on the exit of Cops, and it's nearly 3 abreast. Turri trying to thread the eye of the needle, and there are lights to place on cars a bit further back. One of them looks to be Max Tad. And Scott Mitchell has also got past Lewis McGlade. So the two King Racing cars up into what is now P5 and P6. And they have got some pace in the front-wheel drive Mercedes, Phil. And Jack Nichols leading the charge.
Definitely, and what's also great is they're working together. Two cars working together, chasing each other aerodynamically is better than one. So the two Kings Racing drivers of Mitchell and Nichols are definitely working well and making sure they make progress up the order. This is going to be pretty soon. If they can keep this going, they're going to be catching up to the leading four. Once again, let's say Shanks, I'm just loving the moves he's throwing and trying to see where he can get past Richards. He's really giving the Subaru a real good throwing around the track whilst trying to pass the focus.
Yeah, definitely a good recovery drive here from Costas Avram from FDM in the MG6 GT. Closing on Alexander van der Voorde in the number 38. This is the battle for 11th position. So Avram is around about 3.5 tenths, but he's actually not even that as they go through into Maggots and Beckett's. And then turn right onto the Wellington Straight. Avram up the inside of the focus. That's a nice job there. He's trying to make it. Oh, no, he's turning him around. Oh, that was close. But van der Voorde caught that focus before it snapped away. And now he's going to go back in front of Millward. And he's flashed his lights to show his disapproval. And then Costas Avram has got the lights ablaze as Millward is closing up to van der Voorde through into Brooklands.
Classic hard-charging driver tactic. Switch the lights on, let them know you are coming for them. Yeah, he's really pushing, and it's great to see as it looks as though Shanks is once again giving Richards a hard time. Top three covered by just a second. In fact, Shanks top just over a second again. So really good move by Avram. For a minute there, I thought he was going for the Giovanardi line, the tighter line out of Beckett's and onto the Wellington Straight. It was going quite well until there was contact.
Yes, very much the case as, again, Shanks tries to put it around the outside of Richards through Maggots and Beckett's, and he's got a real good run on the focus going onto the Wellington Straight. He jinked to the left, and then so did Richards in response. And now it is the Mike Bell train, as one of the drivers up ahead looks to be the 105 of Bradley Brockies from E-Team Brit. That'll be the first back marker. And there is Kieran Shanks. You can just see how close, Phil, thanks to this helicam shot here, going through Brooklands and Luffield that Shanks is not letting Richards breathe. As we go on the right-hand side of your screens, that's Sean King up the inside of Aidan Millward, and just behind them looks to be Brown. It's Ben Brown in the 77. But again, we're having great battles up and down the order. There's a brief yellow in Sector 3. We've gone into lap number 12 of 22.
Especially when the touring cars come here, they're so equally matched. They're pushing hard. All the drivers doing everything they can, especially at every corner. And Shanks is again on contact as they're going into Beckett's and onto the Wellington Straight. I think Richards has quite politely told him this time, you're not really coming past that way. And Richards takes the Giovanardi line. I'm loving seeing that. It's brilliant. What this is also doing is allowing the two Kings Racing Mercedes to close in as well. And as I was saying before, as long as they keep working together as a pair, they're going to be aerodynamically better off.
Wow, that's a move and a half. That's brazen if ever you thought it by Matt Richards, but that allows him to try and get around the outside of Clip from Canan Casual Apex, and Shanks is there waiting in the wings yet again, and now the gap between Nichols and Shanks is about 0.6 of a second as they go across the start-finish line to complete lap number 12 here at Silverstone. It started being a 4-car train. It's now going to end up being a 6-car train, maybe 7 if they're not careful, because Lewis McGlade, it's bumper cars aplenty between Bell, Clip, Richards and Shanks. Nichols around the outside of Shanks and the Mercedes, and he's got him! That's a great move. Through into Maggots and Beckett's goes Jack Nichols as Richards goes towards the outside of Clip. Nichols up the inside. He could actually profit and get third if he's very, very lucky. Richards runs wide here, and Scott Mitchell has got he's got a triple toe. Well, double toe. It was a triple toe at one point. As now Nichols fancies a victory here. Richards up the inside of the Kings Racing car past the number 29, but Nichols on the cutback will get the inside run. A little bit of door rubbing between him and Shanks as Mitchell now trying to get through too. So if Nichols will open the door for his teammate, Shanks runs wide. Nichols gets past, Mitchell up the inside of the Subaru, across the start-finish line. This is exactly what you were saying, Phil. And now Mitchell is going to get ahead of Shanks before Cops.
They are, and this is all it takes. One car being hung out to dry for one slight mistake and you're down the order. 1 minute Shanks is sitting there fighting with Richards for third. Now he's back down to sixth, and the two Mercedes are closing in. And Richards again, along with Clip, going for the position going into Beckett's and onto the straight. He's really pushing hard, Richards, and it's really impressive to see. But Clip isn't out of this, and Bell is now having to defend instead of being able to just drive away from them.
Yes, that's very much the case. He's gone defensive on everybody, including Clip behind. So Clip's really done a defensive number on Richards, which has opened the door for Nichols, Mitchell and Shanks. As Richards now trying to go, he goes wide, goes into the little, he's nerfed the, a little bit of the touch there, a rub on the right rear quarter of the MG. And that nearly allowed the door for Nichols to actually go through, pounce past the pair of them into second position. But it's not quite happening. We go on board with Nichols, sixth gear. Over towards Cops. Let's see what commitment there is for Jack Nichols. Down to fifth. Lets off the power. He's around 6,500 RPM in the Mercedes. But he's keeping in touching distance with Richards, figuratively, not literally speaking, as we've seen with Richards and Clip, as that's a big lock-up from the front tyres by Richards, going through Maggots and Beckett's. Now onto the long Wellington Straight. It's a great configuration of Silverstone here, as now he's got, that's about 210, 220 kilometres an hour. That's 140 in the braking into Brooklands by Jack Nichols. He got a real good toe on Richards there. But it's still been pretty much even Stevens as we are now on lap number 15 out of 22.
Nichols is definitely on for a podium. Like I say, he's well within this fight. Bell may be doing everything he can to defend off of Clip, but whilst Nichols is pushing Richards just cannot relax. These guys have got to keep pushing as hard as they can. There is no relaxing. I think they're more looking at the mirrors instead of looking in front, and that's partly where some of the defensive driving's coming in. Push as hard as you can, but make sure the guy behind just doesn't get past.
Okay, so quickly as we're now on to lap number 16 of 22. Bell leads by 0.3 from Clip, ahead of Richards, Nichols, Mitchell, Shanks, McGlade, Butcher, Turry and Davis rounding out the top 10. Oh, a little bit cheeky there from Jack Nichols, trying to do the unsettled tactic on Matt Richards there for P3. And it's Davis, Avram, King, Van der Voorde, Brown, Strachan, Millward, Slattery, Willis, Tad and Hyde rounding out the top 20, followed by Foster, Ballesteros, Chris Wilson, Sam Fowler, Max Fuller and Bradley Brockies completing the 26 out of 28 that are still circulating.
Notice as well as Bell was coming down the back of the Wellington Straight, he took some of the tow from one of the Team E Brit cars, so he's trying to sit there and pull himself further out of the road, away from Clip and away from Richards, whilst these guys are fighting with each other. Great tactic. Again though, he's had to pull in front, and he's still got Clip and Richards in close company, with Nichols now well within inside the second. I can see a podium coming for him if he manages to get past Richards in the right way.
Well, that's if Richards keeps on locking up the way that he does at the moment, because he's just done that through Cops. So it's not that easy. But Mike Bell doing a really good job just holding off everybody. And again, it's bumper cars. So Nichols on the back bumper of Richards, Richards on the back bumper of Clip. And it's about who blinks first. And now Mitchell and Shanks back in the party. Lewis McGlade is 3.7 seconds away from this train. And now Clip thinks he sees an advantage. As now Nichols looking as Clip gets one thrown up the inside by Richards. And that's through into Brooklands. But again, Clip has the inside run. Nichols looks towards the inside, making a tighter apex through the final corner through Luffield, Phil. And that's just really a case of, if you want to train, you're getting a perfect demonstration on how to run it. And that's by Mike Bell.
He's exactly how to do it. Bell's doing exactly the right thing. As he's keeping an eye on his mirrors, he's also staying in front of these guys. But Nichols is trying to get the move done. Sometimes around the outside of Brooklands can work, sometimes it doesn't. If Richards doesn't make it work, Nichols and Mitchell will both be there to pounce on him, as it looks as though Clip's going to have a try on the inside, going through Maggots. In fact, definitely on the inside and into Beckett's. Nichols is over the curb behind and trying for Richards. It's all kicking off here. It's good fun.
Well, as they say, tin tops are always unpredictable, and this is where you sort of think, as Matt Richards goes towards the inside of Clip down the Wellington Straight, as again Nichols looks to the inside of the Ford Focus, and it's three abreast for second position. Clip's got the inside run, Richards in the middle, trying to thread the idle through, and there's Shanks. He's got past Mitchell, and he's gone sideways in the Subaru. He's got past Richards, he's got past Nichols, he's got past Richards now and Mitchell. But now Richards has powered around the outside of the Subaru. How has he done that? I'm really, really flabbergasted on that one. As they go through, Cops absolutely flying through in fifth gear around 190 kilometres an hour. But these cars looking a bit second-hand at the moment as Nichols up the inside of Richards there, through the approach into Maggots and Beckett's. Has he got the job done? Has the 29 from King's Racing? He's got the inside run. Shanks locks up. Mitchell up the inside, looking to try and thread the eye of the needle through the gap between where Nichols has one of the E-Team Brit cars gets out of the way, and that might, I think that's Max Spooner, and then they've got Sandro Ballesteros up ahead. Now, this is where it's going to get really interesting, because now that they're hitting back marker traffic, Phil, this is where it's really going to count, because in the next 3.5 laps, we've got a yellow in sector 3.
They've got to find the braking points and find the gaps to get past the back markers where they can. Otherwise, you're going to lose out big time. And as Shanks has already proved, if you can pounce at the right time, you can make up places no end. He's back up to third from sixth, which for me is move of the race so far, even with 4 to 5 laps left.
Yes, so yellow in sector 3, one of the E-Team Brit cars pulled off to the side, I think, just to avoid, and that was probably Bradley Brockey's, as Richards getting hounded by Scott Mitchell, the number 22 Kings Racing. Sandro Ballesteros looks like on the left-hand side of the screen will get out of the way of those going through. And it is still nip and tuck because you can't really tell who's going to make the move on who. Shanks up the inside of Clip. Nichols just behind. Richards trying to have one forced up the inside onto the Wellington Straight by Scott Mitchell. So Mitchell already trying to close up for what is going to be P5. And again, it's like flotsam and jetsam, as Jake Sanson would say. You don't know who's going to go where at any particular point in the circuit. After this, there are going to be 2 more laps to go. And Phil, Kieran Shanks now in second position.
He's pushing, and it's quite possibly the fact that he's been able to make his tyres last. He sat in 6th place for a little while, and then he was able to pounce and make up those places. He could now be Bell's biggest contender as they go into the last few laps of the race. And there's always a typical rear-wheel drive looks after its tyres better than the front-wheel drive. Bell's been at the front for almost all of the race. He's been pushing hard and defending from Clip. Shanks is well placed to try and go for the lead.
And when you look at it, 1.6 seconds separates the top 6 drivers as Kieran Shanks has put in the fastest lap of the race on in second position, 57.847. That's quicker than anyone. And the rest of the top 6 have got, that's 2 wheels on the grass out of Maggots and Beckett's by Jack Nichols. That's given him a bit of a disadvantage going onto the Wellington Straight, but he managed to power through it. But Shanks, as you said, Phil, has really looked after the tyres, and even with the 15-kilo BOP, that's also the success ballast he brought from Brands Hatch, hasn't really hindered the Subaru that much.
No, and it's a car that carries the weight well, we know in the real world normally anyway. So the fact the rear-wheel drive benefits been able to keep him in touch and keep the tyres in good condition just means he's going to be able to push Bell that little bit harder than the others have been able to earlier in the race.
But Bell has really kept on that defensive masterclass. As here we go, Shanks trying to go up the inside, can't get through on Cops. Lap number 21 out of 22 as Nichols now gets on the back bumper of Matthew Clip for what is P3. I think he's got the job done. Is he going to go and send it? He does, and he goes around the outside of Kieran Shanks through Maggots and Beckett's. Clip up the inside, it's 3 wide coming out onto the Wellington straight. And Nichols tries to thread the eye of the needle. Matt Richards just up behind the Mercedes, and then Scott Mitchell waiting in the wings to see if everything kicks off out front.
Oh, it's just brilliant, isn't it? They're all trying to take every line possible as they go into Beckett's, and everyone is coming out where they can. They're finding a gap. Shanks, though, he might be losing out. He's having to defend from Clip.
Oh, my goodness,
really
he did. Job. And, sorry to cut across you there, Phil, but looks like Clip is all the way down into what is now third position. Nichols nearly had the run on the lot of them, going up into P2. But now he's side by side with his teammates. This is what you want in a touring car race. We're now going to go on to what is effectively the final lap. Mike Bell has held on irrespective of what has been thrown at him. Whether a Subaru has thrown a right hook, rear-wheel drive punch. Jack Nichols trying to throw one up the inside wherever he can. And he's now down to 6th place behind his teammate, Scott Mitchell. Matt Richards has done really, really well to keep in this fight, but he's got to really try and see if he can force Matthew Clip into a mistake. And it's nearly a synchronised formation by all 4 cars coming onto the Wellington straight. Could it be 4 wide if Jack Nichols decides to throw it on the inside of Matt Richards? Well, he does. He gets behind his teammate. Matt Richards closes off to cover, and Shanks is going for the lead. Is he going to get this on the final corner? If he does, it's absolutely perfectly timed. And it does happen. Kieran Shanks on the final corner through Luffield, now through Woodcote. He's going to take the checkered flag after a brilliant 6-way scrap for the lead here in race 1 at Silverstone. And what a job. Kieran Shanks makes it 3 out of 4 here in the first race ahead of Mike Bell. Third place goes to Matthew Clip. Matthew Richards takes P4 ahead of Scott Mitchell, and Jack Nichols rounding out the top 6. Oh, bit of contretemps there. Not what you want to do post-race there, Scott Mitchell. Naughty, naughty. So Lewis McGlade would round out 8th place ahead of Lorenzo Turri and Sean King. But Phil, that was a battle that I think had both our hearts in our mouths.
Oh, definitely. Great move from Shanks. He's really been able to show he was able to keep the tyres in good condition. And as I said, last corner, last lap, that's the time to pounce. And he's done it perfectly. Great job by Matt Bell. The whole race. He really did. He deserved the win. But Shanks was just being able to use the better tactics and just pull it off when he needed to. Also, a shout out to Scott Mitchell and Jack Nichols. Great racing from the pair of them and using the Mercedes to their benefits.
So we'll see what happens in race 2. But there's your top 10 with Shanks winning from Bell, Clip, Richards, Mitchell, Nichols, Butcher, McGlade, Turri and King. We then head to the remainder of the grid, all other 18 competitors. So 11th place is Toby Davis. 12th is the number 77 of Ben Brown with Aidan Millward, Robert Strachan and Ben Willis rounding out the top 15. Then we have Max Tad, Daniel Slattery, Tommy Foster and Sandro Ballesteros and Sam Fowler rounding out the top 20. That's a great spirited drive from the 13-year-old from Rochdale. And then we round out the order with Chris Wilson, Alexander Van der Voorde, Daniel Hyde, Costas Avram, Max Spooner, and Bradley Brocky's being the last of the 26 runners that finished. Max and Bradley finished 2 laps off of the leaders, with Costas Avram still being classified, even though he DNF'd in P24, with Dan Kell and Tom Edmonds early casualties. But Phil, what a great race. Race 2 just coming up.
It's absolutely brilliant. Exactly what you expect from touring cars on Silverstone National. 6 cars racing for the lead at one point. Pack racing down the order. It's brilliant. Exactly what we want to see.
So that concludes race 1 of round 3 here at Silverstone National with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and my co-commentator Phil Kinch, with Mike Yao from Simply Race providing the audio and visuals for you watching at home. We'll be back very, very shortly with race 2 here at Silverstone.
it's my end or not was the stream. Every
Yeah.
now.
Well, yeah, we're back in, Phil. We're back here at Silverstone National. Sorry for my colleague there. He gets a bit excited at times, don't you, Phil?
I do.
But we're ahead of race 2 here at round 3 of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Phil Kinch, your commentators, after what was a spectacular 6-way battle for race 1 of round 3. We will be back in action for those wondering about the next round of the championship, 7th of July at Thruxton. And then we head to Alton Park, Island, Snetterton, Croft, Knockhill pending, which is a pending. Obviously, the VMO, who are the organising body, can change the circuit at any point. We'll also head to Silverstone International, so 2 trips, as we would find in the British Touring Car Championship. Is our penultimate round on the 29th of September, and then the 13th of October is our Brands Hatch Grand Prix finale. And Phil, I couldn't think of a better place to end the season.
It's always the best way to end the season. Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit always offers great racing, unpredictable racing, and when there's a title in the balance, you just cannot predict what's going to happen. Perfect venue.
But also, you know, we've got some great circuits. I mean, out of the ones that I've just mentioned, which one is your favourite?
So I'm slightly biased in the fact we're actually racing at my favourite. Silverstone for me is very local. It's half an hour down the road from me, so I love Silverstone. I'm also a fan of Donington, which obviously you've raced at previously, so really happy with those. But going back to Silverstone International, something that hasn't been done in quite a long time. That's going to be interesting to see how the new layout challenges the drivers and how they can get used to that. It's been a long while since Silverstone International itself's been used, but again, great tracks to be using, perfect tracks for touring car racing, and they just promote how much fun it is.
As we saw in that race just earlier on, but we've got race 2 and race 3 coming up. It's going to be an interesting one because, as they say, Phil, the cat definitely got put amongst the pigeons between the top 6, as we saw. But Kieran Shanks just put on an absolute masterclass. I mean, last time out at Brands Hatch Indy, you know, where we had probably quite a lot of incidents and where people have had grid place penalties issued post-race, then obviously one driver not being able to compete, having been banned with a maximum amount of 12 penalty points put on their licence. It's mixed things up a little bit, but I'm looking forward to seeing what we might see from Dan Cal and also Tom Edmonds.
It's definitely, like I say, when you have not a reverse grid race, but obviously race 2 is going to start the way race 1 finished. So it's going to be interesting to see how the different configurations of cars handle things. Rear-wheel drive cars are going to get the better start off the line, but as we saw, Mike Bell was able to hold that lead for almost the entire race and almost unchallenged as well. It was very late in the race that Shanks and Clip were able to sit there and give him a harder time. It could be that the front-wheel drive cars come to the fore again. Either way, it's going to be another close encounter.
And obviously now with the fact of those wondering about the success ballast, yes, we do have it here in the VMO Touring Car UK Championship. So as a result of his victory, Kieran Shanks will have 60 kilos. Mike Bell will have 54. Third, it's 48. And it's 4. So that will be Matthew Clip will have 48 on his MG. Then it will be Matt Richards, 42. Scott Mitchell, 36. Jack Nichols will have 30. Then down to, we have 7th, which will have 24 kilos. 18 kilos on 8th. 12 for 9th. And then 6 kilos for 10th. So whoever's in 10th position, Phil, I think, might have a bit more an advantage. And I could see that possibly Lewis McGlade might factor into the second race here.
Definitely. If you've got a lighter car, you're going to have a better time. The heavier the car, the more it's going to push the tyres, and especially as hard as you're pushing the tyres at Silverstone normally anyway. So the lighter cars are going to have an advantage. The heavier cars are potentially going to fall back, and you're going to have another race like we had before where guys are going to be moving backwards and forwards as they try and cope with exactly what's under the steering wheel and how the car's feeling itself. They're going to have to adjust to it.
Yeah, it's always about always adapting and making sure that you've got the right car under you, because in some respects, some drivers will look to maximise their opportunity, but if they haven't got the right amount of ballast on board when they're testing these things, it's quite difficult to sort of find the lie of the land, especially when it's a quick circuit like Silverstone National.
Definitely. Weight is key in any racing car, and that's no different with the touring car. The more weight you put in it, the harder you're going to work it, the harder you're going to work the tyres, and you've got to be able to adapt to that. And success ballast in touring car racing, whatever form it comes, is part and parcel of what we have. So yeah, it's all about learning and just adapting to what you've got to work with.
So we're just waiting for the grid for race 2 to be announced, and then we'll get things underway here at Silverstone National for race 2 of round 3 of the VMO Touring Car UK Championship here on the multiple streams through the Let's Race Facebook page, the E-Team Brit Facebook page, the Simply Race Facebook page. And for those wondering, Simply Race is reopening its doors on all days, Phil, Independence Day, July 4th. How's about that?
That's a perfect date to do it. It's absolutely brilliant if you ask me. July 4th, which is obviously Independence Day. As far as I'm concerned, it should be for everyone, as the film Independence Day relates to as well.
Indeed, but obviously we'll rename it Simply Race Reopening Day,
Yeah.
because it's a great facility, 15 pods with intercoms, and it's every time I go down there, see Mike and all the crew. It's always a barrel of laughs, and I'm looking forward to, at one point in the not too distant future, visit there and have my fill of virtual racing. We're waiting for the grid to line up, so we will have a formation lap before we get another 22-lap race here underway at Silverstone. Just waiting for a couple of other drivers, so the likes of Matthew Clipp, Scott Mitchell, and also Sean King, waiting to jump onto the grid. So, formation lap is underway. Here is your lineup for race 2 here at Silverstone. So on pole position will be Kieran Shanks in the number 16 Framey Autosport Subaru, ahead of the Smile Power Racing Vauxhall Astra of Mike Bell in the 5. Then it's Matthew Clipp in the leading MG this round, the 92, and Matt Richards alongside in row 2. Scott Mitchell and Jack Nichols will round out row 3, ahead of Chris Butcher and Lewis McGlade, completing the top 8. Top 10 will be completed by Lorenzo Turri and Sean King from Smile Power Racing and Cam Sport respectively, ahead of Toby Davis and Ben Brown. Then the next 4 places will be secured by Aidan Millward, Robert Strachan from Frammy Autosport, Ben Willis from Drake Racing, Max Tad from SRR Motorsport in one of the 2 BMWs, Daniel Slattery from Rage Racing, Tommy Foster from SRR, Sandro Ballesteros will start from 19th, ahead of Sam Fowler from SRR, completing the top 20. And rounding out the latter 4 rows will be Chris Wilson from Cam Sports, Alexander van der Voorde, Daniel Hyde and Kostas Avram. And then we have Max Spooner, Bradley Brockies, Dan Kell and Tom Edmonds. So again, Phil, another race that could really provide an exciting spectacle here at the home of British Motor Racing, as Max Spooner in the 63 BMW 125i M Sports. E-Team Brit are running a trio of them here. It's going to be an interesting one, as they're going to start lining up into the last couple of spaces on the grid before we go racing.
It is, and again, like I say, Shanks being at the head of the field, the highest placed rear-wheel drive car, it's going to be interesting to see how he copes with Max Ballast on that car, and also who can make moves forward. I'm also looking for maybe Toby Davis to spring a surprise from outside the top 10.
Right, we're ready to get things underway for race 2 of round 3 of the VMO Touring Car UK Championship here at the home of British Motorsport, Silverstone, at the National Circuit. 1.64 miles in duration. And it is Shanks who gets a pretty good start on the Subaru and jumps away from Mike Bell. Richards on the inside of Clip into Copse for the first time. Looks like Lewis McGlade has got past Scott Mitchell heading into Copse. So he will be behind Jack Nichols, who rounds out 6th position. And McGlade already swarming over the back bumper of the Mercedes as they head through into Maggots and Beckett's for the first time. Shanks already, he's got a slight gap fill of around half a second. So Mike Bell in the Astra starting to struggle as Matt Richards is closing on him, as too is Chris Butcher.
He did. Shanks got the perfect start, managed to get the power down nice and easily, and has managed to get a small gap in front of everyone. So he's going to be able to try and build that advantage. In the meantime, you've got the guys behind already squabbling as Bell is going sideways into Brooklands. That's really great to see. Yeah, pushing hard as it is, and already the Mercedes trying to fight off from the MG. So the guys are going to try and settle themselves out over the next couple of laps. But at the moment, Mike Shanks has definitely got the best start of it and made hay while he can. Indeed.
So now the gap between Shanks and Bell is now half a second. Tom Edmonds, I've just noticed, has gone up to P25. It's closing on Max Spooner from E-Team Brit for position. That's for 24th on the road. And Spooner's actually got past Wilson for P23. So Edmonds now having a bit of work to do. Let's have a look at the replay here. There's Toby Davis. and he's gone in quite hot, and Scott Mitchell has, I think that's the slightest of redrawings, a little bit of a redress, but I think in that kind of incident, that Toby Davis, I think, might have just outbraked himself there, Phil.
It looks as though, and as they say, rubbing his racing. Fortunately, Davis has been straightened up. That's possibly dented my chance of him being a race win hopeful, but we'll see how he goes. In the meantime, Bell's managed to close up to Shanks. It might already be the case that the weight is closing down the tyres on the Subaru, and Richards isn't far behind either.
When you look at it with the 70, which was now effectively a 75 kilo success ballast, including the 60 BOP, the 15 kilo BOP that was added ahead of round number 3 here at Silverstone, that it's really a testing sign. And it looks like that focus of Richards is lighting up the timing screens purple. 58.307. Bell looking to go up the inside of Shanks for the lead. So they come out through Beckett's onto the Wellington straight. Richards is in there, though, Phil, but not too far behind is Chris Butcher. And he's only around about 9/10 of a second behind at the moment. And whilst these three are squabbling, at the moment, Bell trying to get through up on the inside of Shanks, going through into Brooklands, and then having to switch back through into Luffield and then Woodcote. There he is. There is Butcher on the back bumper of Richards.
It's almost as if Shanks is like the cork in the bottle now. The weight is hurting the Subaru. If it's hurting it this early, then he's going to have trouble defending. Richards, as we saw, wasn't backwards in coming forwards in race 1 and trying to push Bell as hard as he can. So as we see Bell looking again to try and line up a pass into Cops for Shanks, it's not going to make it work. But it's going to be pretty soon, I reckon. The Astra's going to be past the Subaru pretty cleanly.
Here's the battle for 7th on the left-hand side of your screen. Max Tad has got the lights ablaze at Jack Nicholls, as Davis sends it past Lorenzo Turi, and there is Aidan Millward trying to go up the inside of the Astra in the meantime. That's a great move there from Toby Davis. But I did see that Lewis McGlade was also trying to get past Matthew Clip, which he has done so, and that is for P5. So some great battling. Oh, the leader's being turned around! Leader's being turned around, so Shanks off the road. Richards now gets the lead ahead of Butcher and Bell. So Bell went a bit too hot, I believe, though. Was it Butcher? I'd like to see a replay of that, but that was definitely one of the... here we go. Right. Now, this is the Drake Racing car. That is... Yeah, that's not good. That's not what you want to see from a Subaru, clattering into the back of the number 23. So that's Ben Willis going into the back of Sean King there. But yeah, leader gets turned around. And where is Shanks now? He's right behind Scott Mitchell. And that is for 8th position. Jack Nicholls up ahead, who has been passed by Max Tad. Shanks has absolutely pounced on Mitchell and taken 8th. That Subaru is absolutely inhuman when you talk about touring car. Right, now here's a replay. Bell goes for the lead. He sends it. He's gone in too hot. He's put on the anchors. He's collected Shanks. Richards threads the eye through the needle. Butcher around the outside of his teammate. Job done. That was not pretty, Phil, was it?
No, definitely contact. And again, it's one of the dangers as you try to overtake into Brooklands. There's always going to be some form of contact, and a rear-wheel drive car will easily go round like a spinning top. It's not too difficult. You can see both hard on the brakes, both pushing as hard as they can, and unfortunately Shanks has come off worst on that one.
Yeah, and dropped down like a rock being dropped into a pebble, and it sinks right to the bottom of it. As now Shanks trying to force his way past Scott Mitchell. They've got Max Tad just behind, and then Toby Davis. And now the SRR Motorsport car of Max Tad looking really, really racing now in the BMW 125 IM Sport, closing on the Subaru Levorg GT. Headlights ablaze. This is the psychological side of tactics from a driver such as Max Tad. What you say there?
It is definitely flash the lights and try and see if you can distract him. Otherwise, just leave the lights on and they'll look at some point and realise you're there waiting to pounce.
As Mitchell goes up inside of teammate Nicholls, there goes Shanks. But Nicholls keeping it round the outside. He's about half a car length ahead of the Subaru as they go side by side across the line. We're on to lap number 8 out of 22. Tad just waiting in the wings. He's just sort of sticking his nose in there where it doesn't belong and then pulls out of the way. Nicholls gets around the outside. Oh, a little bit of tussle between him and Shanks. That's not what you want going into Maggots and Beckett's. And Richards now battling away with Chris Butcher for the race victory here. Butcher up the inside of the Ford Focus from Sancho Simsport. The pair are side by side. They're nearly rubbing wheel arches here and tyre sidewalls going down into Brooklands. And if Butcher times this right, he will have the run on Richards, but he goes a bit too hot into Brooklands as Richards sweeps towards the outside and gets past. Great move there by the Sancho Simsport racing driver in the Ford Focus and the number 4.
It is possible, like I say, you can go inside of Brooklands or outside of Brooklands. You can still defend and keep the place. But for them, like I say, Richards has managed to get himself ahead and make sure he can hold off Butcher as much as he can.
Very much the case. But again, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next few laps or so, because Butcher squarely back on the back bumper of Richards as they go through into Maggots and Beckett's, and McGlade now really fancying a chance of an opportunity to get up into the top 3, because he's got Mike Bell just up ahead. And he's not letting him breathe, Phil, is he?
No, definitely. Pushing as hard as he can and making sure he knows he's there. It's quite the interesting tussle, as you say. Richards being pursued by Butcher up front, Ford defending from Vauxhall, and it looks as though Butcher's actually trying to go around the outside, and he's got him. No, he's not got him, sorry. Looking at McGlade and Bell. But Butcher is pushing Richards hard. He knows he's there. And as he's not got the weight from race 1, Butcher is in the better position and able to push Richards hard, as we see McGlade now trying to give Bell a hard time as they come onto the front straight. And again, it is Ford versus Vauxhall. The two cars are evenly matched, and they're showing as hard as they can that they're pushing each other and trying to force a mistake so they can get past.
Max Tad still has those lights ablaze on the front of that BMW, as here is Toby Davis and Lorenzo Turri battling away for what is effectively the last position in the top 10. But I did say about Lewis McGlade, didn't I, Phil? Because he's now side by side with Bell, as Butcher's side by side with Richards going into Brooklands and now into Luffield. And Butcher this time makes it a little bit neater, and he's gone towards the inside. He's got up the inside. Someone locks up big time, going through into Brooklands off of the Wellington Straight. So now Butcher back in the lead, and it is still cat and mouse here at Silverstone, with now going on to lap number 11 out of 22, so half distance.
They're pushing each other as they should be, but again, it's going to come down as race 1 did. Last corner, last lap. Both cars are capable of winning. Butcher's back in the lead, and he knows he can hold it there. Richards wants the lead back, and he's pushing hard already. And it's the same with Bell and McGlade. As though McGlade has got ahead of Bell, so you've got the focuses in second and third now. They come into Beckett's, and again, locking the brakes. You're braking hard from the run from Copse, and it's trying to see if you can get the toe down the Wellington Straight. As you can see, Richards is pushing as hard as he can for Butcher, may even try to go for the lead again into Brooklands himself. Keeps the watching brief. Yeah, he keeps the watching brief, and a little bit of slide there. So not trying the same tactic as Butcher tried last lap. But again, the focus is there, and he knows he's keeping in tow. So it's not going to be long before Richards is going to try and pass him again.
Yeah, very much the case. And so Jack Nicholls, I have noticed, has been struggling a little bit. He is now down in P9. As there is Ben Willis up the inside of one of the that's Slattery. And Willis gets a bit of a tank slapper there. Not exactly what he wants, but in many respects, we will just have that case where someone's gone off big time going through Copse. I think there was a Mercedes going through into our line of sight on the camera on the left-hand side. And some of the drivers, Aidan Millward is running with a tribute to Alex Zanardi, who we all send our best wishes to at the moment. He's recovering from the incident a few days ago. The livery on his car has an Italian flag and the Paralympic symbol with Pregando per Zanardi, or Alex, who is the only disabled touring car race winner in Oschersleben back in the World Touring Car Championship, if memory serves me correct, Phil. But he's also done a heck of a lot more than that.
Oh, he has, yes. Alex is a true inspiration to drivers out there. I remember watching that race live. He was absolutely elated when he took the race win in the BMW, and often proved in the seasons he raced in World Touring cars that he was well worth more wins to wait for him. So, yeah, a true inspiration. Loving the livery on the BMW there.
Brilliant. And I think also E-Team Brit are also running that because they ran with that sticker. Here's a replay here. Now, this is going to be quite interesting. This is with Toby Davis, and there is a Sancho Simsport Focus. That looks to be possibly the 89 of Dan Kell, and there is a Mercedes just up ahead, Now, who is that? That looks to be one of the Camsport cars, and that has lost a front wheel. That's the car that went off.
That's Sean King from the looks of it, I think.
Oh, that's a shame. So he's now out in the 23 Mercedes. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, lap 13 of 22. I do like the fact with some of these liveries, you get some really good emojis, especially on the Smile Power racing cars. Underneath the racing, they've got a smiling face emoji with a pair of wings. Has it been given Red Bull or something like that, maybe?
Oh, I wonder. Makes it look good, though. It's brilliant.
Indeed. We're having an inter-team battle here between E-Team Brit teammates. One is the boss. The other one is the youngest member of the squad, Max Spooner and Sandro Ballesteros. Ballesteros is 0.6 of a second behind, but considering the E-Team Brit are looking to move themselves into other forms of motorsport, and when they got the opportunity to jump at the VMO Touring Car UK Championship, they instantly fielded a 3-car entry. With Bradley Brockies down in 26. But a good battle between these two guys at the moment, isn't it, Phil?
It is, yeah. Equal cars, the BMW 125s, great little rear-wheel drive cars to use. And once they get adapted to them and they get some experience underneath them, they will be moving further up the field. It's good to see.
Yes. So I think they've got Andy Tucker and Bobby Trundley helping them out with setups and things like that. So it is a team effort, even though they do say there's no I in team, but there is a little me. I digress there. But at the moment, Phil, this battle between Richards and Butcher, again, it's still even Steven, but Lewis McGlade now up into P3 and closing. Between the top three, Lewis was actually the quickest, but then Kieran Shanks is running sub 59s in that Subaru. Max Tad has still got his lights ablaze behind Matthew Clipp. But yeah, I mean, what a showing from Kieran Shanks again.
You can't count him out, it's quite obvious, and his tactics in race one showed quite clearly how well he was able to cope with it. So he's obviously been able to get a handle on the car with the extra weight it's got on board. He's been able to make his moves back up the order. Whether he closes on McGlade, whether McGlade closes on Richards, time will tell, but there aren't many laps left, and they're going to have to work hard to try and see if they can break the stranglehold that Butcher and Richards have got on the lead of the race.
Oh, Van der Voorde tries to send it up the inside of Toby Davis there, going through Brooklands, and it didn't quite work out to how the Focus driver wanted. And just behind, he's got the number 77 of Ben Brown and the 27 of Sam Fowler. So that's an interesting battle for what is effectively 11th on the road. Butcher and Richards still around 0.2 of a second adrift. Matt Richards has set the fastest lap of the race with the 58.307. And there we go. We've got Scott Mitchell behind Matthew Clipp, who is battling away for what is 5th place, as Tad goes towards the inside of Bell there and gets past. Clipp is possibly going to be pounced on by Mitchell. No, he doesn't. Mitchell slots in behind. And I'm just wondering where is... Now, I'm looking down the order. Jack Nicholls has had a bit of a moment, Phil. He's down in P21 as it's 3 wide going through into Brooklands. Max Tad tries to thread the eye through the needle. Mitchell tries to go towards Clip, wearing outside. But Mike Bell has still held on to 5th place.
He's done a cracking job so far. Those four are definitely pushing each other hard as Tad comes back towards Bell on the run to Copse. In fact, if he can stay on the inside through Woodcote, he may be able to sit there and make a pass into Copse, which will be difficult in itself. It's great seeing the headlights flashing on the BMW, and he's made it through. So again, hard work and persistence, but he set the move up, coming out of Brooklands and running through Woodcote, which is the best way to do this.
Yep, so pretty close between Tad, Bell, Clipp and Mitchell. At the moment, Dan Kell from Cincho Simsport is trying to close on them. He's closed up about 0.3 of a second. Mitchell looking to swarm all over the back bumper of the MG of Clipp for P7. That's the Mercedes now in the tow. Down the Wellington Straight under the bridge. Here's the battle for the lead once again. The brakes virtually getting very, very hot indeed on all 4 corners. As Richards again. Now look how close McGlade is now, Phil. I did say he might be a bit of a dark horse in this race, and he's the second off of Butcher.
And all it's going to take for McGlade to close up that gap even more is a slight mistake from Butcher or Richards. Butcher is really close. Richards is really close to Butcher, and he's pushing him hard. A slight touch, the slightest missed braking point, and McGlade is going to be right with them, and so will Shanks as well.
Yeah, thank you to Ed Straw watching on the stream at the moment, saying that Jack actually stopped the drive-through penalty. So unfortunately, that did escape my notice. Thank you for letting me know, Phil. Ed, I really do appreciate it. But this battle for 11th, Phil, really is coming alive now, and it's a 5-way scrap. Van der Voorde trying to be hustled by Brown. Willis just behind in the drag racing Subaru Levorg. And even though we saw that Ben Willis earlier on the season was definitely one of those drivers that could have had an issue in this particular race, as again, that's a bit of a wild scythe to the right by Ben Brown. Alexander Van der Voorde now gets past, as Brown was towards the outside through Brooklands. Now into Luffield before they head through round the final corner. Put the power down, accelerate up the gears through Luffield, through Woodcote, across the start-finish line, as Davis is being closed on by Fowler. And Van der Voorde, I think, might have entered into the pits. It's just out of my line of sight there. Looks to be the case that he is in the pit lane. There we go.
Davis defending hard from Fowler as they're coming into Copse as well. He knows he's there. He's got to try and see if he can hold him off before they get onto the back straight. But Fowler is definitely pushing Davis as hard as he can.
Yeah, the pair are nearly side by side through Maggots and Beckett's, and they do rub wheel arches there, but Davis keeps the inside line. But Fowler trying to power around the outside onto the Wellington straight. Davis gets the better run coming out of the corner. So nicely done there. And there is Brown a lot behind him, and he's got the headlights on, a la Max Tad, just behind, and he's about to thread it through. Is that going to be 3 wide into Brooklands?
This could be messy.
Oh, that was very close indeed, but I think he thought that discretion was the better part of valour. Willis on the back bumper of Brown. Millward's just there in striking distance. He was half a second behind, but now he is right with them as Willis gets a bit of a tank slapper from the rear axle going through Woodcote, or through Luffield and into the approach into Woodcote, so not easy. Butcher and Richards, you cannot separate them at all as we're on lap number 20 of 22. Lewis McGlade is now with them pretty much. He's got about half a second between himself and his teammate. And one of the golden rules, Phil, is you can race your teammate. The biggest rule is never take them out.
No, you don't want to be in the pit garage afterwards if that's happened. Believe you me, it's not a nice thing to see. Yeah, they've got to push hard. Richards knows he's there. He's got to try and make a move on this last lap, the same way that Shanks did. But Shanks is just over a second. He's not far himself. So as I said before, the slightest mistake and he could be in the mix as well. He's the dark horse.
He very much is, and the gap is sort of staying at a pretty much an equilibrium between the top 3 at the moment. But Kieran Shanks, again, he's just really, really flying at the moment. I mean, okay, he's the second quickest out of the top 4, but he's been running consistently in the 58.7s despite the 75 kilos he's got on that Subaru Levorg, which is 60 for the win earlier on, 15 for the BOP. There's now Kell, Clip, Fowler and Davis are all going to be battling around for what is going to be 9th position, as again there is a bit of a moment for Willis, which is allowing Millward to close up for P14, and that is going down into Maggots and Beckett's. Leaders now coming through Brooklands. And again, Phil, even though we are probably, a couple of laps away from the end of this race, there's an E-Team Brit car just up ahead. They're trying to do their best. That's probably Bradley Brockies, who's just ahead, and he'll be the only one that looks to be lapped in this race. But it could make all the difference, not just for Butcher or Richards, but also McGlade too.
Indeed, and McGlade has closed right up as well, so it's now 3 for the lead effectively. It's not going to take much, and lapping a car is one of the distractions that the leader doesn't need. So Butcher's got to make sure he can get past the E-Team Brit car as cleanly as possible, and make sure he doesn't let either Richards or McGlade past.
12th place still being hotly contested. Davis ahead of Brown as Willis looks to go up the inside of the Mercedes again through Copse. Can't make it through as now Maggots and Beckett's, and that was pretty hairy, I think, now for the leaders as Butcher and Richards. It's not much between them.
It's very close.
It's very close indeed. 0.2 of a second as they come through into Luffield and then power out and go through into Woodcote. This will be the final lap of the second race here at Silverstone. So I think Lewis McGlade will be happy with the 3rd place after this, as he's fended off Kieran Shanks. But at the moment, Dan Kell has got past Lorenzo Turri for 8th position, and he's got 9/10 up the road. He's got Mike Bell. There's another battle. That is Fowler against Clip. This is for the last position in the top 10. And Fowler looking to the inside, Clip to the outside of Copse. Clip gets a better run out of the corner, but Fowler looks to have the traction coming through as they head through into Maggots and Beckett's. Leaders onto the Wellington straight for what is the final time. And Butcher has really held on ever so quickly. Richards trying to get him into making a mistake, but it's not going to happen. Through Brooklands for the fine, was Brooklands, and then into Luffield, now into Woodcote for the final time. And it's going to be nothing in it as they come around the final corner. What a drive. Chris Butcher from Smile Power Racing in the 65 flashes the headlights, as does Matt Richards. It's a win for Butcher, second for Richards, McGlade in third, Shanks in fourth. What a race.
It's been an absolutely brilliant performance by Butcher. As soon as he was able to get through to the front, he's done really well here. And you can also see Toby Davis just holding off Ben Willis as they come through to the line from Woodcote. He's done a great job in trying to defend off where possible with the Vauxhall. And it looks as though he's going to stay ahead of Ben as they cross the line.
That's a great job from Toby Davis. Here's Chris Wilson, our penultimate finisher here at Silverstone. But Chris Wilson. So Chris Butcher takes the win ahead of Matt Richards. We'll go through the running order, but I like the livery on the side of that. It says, just send it.
Yeah, that's the best way.
Perfectly touring car personified there, wouldn't you agree, Mr. Kinch?
It is indeed. Send it and see what happens.
And that's normally the case in touring cars.
Yeah.
But very shortly, we'll go to the results for race 2 here at Silverstone National for round 3 of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship, where we'll be getting things underway. So let's have a look at the results from race 2. Chris Butcher takes a win ahead of Matt Richards, with Lewis McGlade making it a 2-3 for Sancho Simsport. It was Frammy Autosports. Kieran Shanks in the number 16 Subaru ahead of Max Tad in the leading SRR BMW. Scott Mitchell from Kings Racing in the 22 would finish in 6th place ahead of Dan Kell and Mike Bell. And 9th and 10th would be rounded out by Lorenzo Turri and Matthew Clipp. So fastest lap of that race, Matt Richards. But Phil, just the way that we saw everything happen in that race, there was so much to talk about as you see the top 10 on your screen at the moment, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it was. And again, you had some pack racing, but you also had tactical racing as well. Butcher, again, the same as his teammate Bell in race 1, had to defend as hard as possible. Richards was capable of getting past and was capable of leading the race, but he had to work hard. If you cover off the corners, if you take your lines and you're doing everything you can to try and force a mistake out the guy in front, and it's not going to happen, you're not going to get past. So all kudos to Butcher for taking the race win and holding on as hard as he did, and also to Richards for fighting as hard as he did and trying to force that mistake out of the Vauxhall driver.
Definitely, Phil. I couldn't agree more with you there. 11th was Sam Fowler, Ben Brown in 12th ahead of Toby Davis, Ben Willis, Aidan Millward, Daniel Slattery, Costas Avram, Daniel Hyde. Jack Nichols would finish 19th after serving his drive-through penalty. Robert Strachan rounding out the top 20 and completing the 27 that started this race. Sandro Ballesteros, the best of the E-Team Brit drivers, as we also have Alexander van der Voorde, Tommy Foster, Tom Edmonds. I'm not too sure if there is a DNF for Max Spooner there, but Chris Wilson, 25th. Bradley Brocky's finishing a lap off the leaders, and Sean King losing the wheel in the Cam Sport 23 Mercedes, ending his race. So very, very shortly, we'll be looking to go ahead with our third and final race here at round 3 of the VMO Touring Car UK Championship here at Silverstone National with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Phil Kinch. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to get things underway with the third and final race here of round 3 of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Phil Kinch in the commentary box. Phil, great race there, but looking forward to round 3, race 3 here at Silverstone. It's going to be a shame to leave this circuit and in 2 weeks head to Thruxton for what's going to be another great affair. But just your thoughts over your first trip in the virtual commentary box.
Oh, I've really enjoyed it. I'm really happy to have been invited along, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the racing so far from the day's 2 races. Race 3, reverse grid draw, again, pandemonium is the only word I can think of. That's what normally happens in these types of races. So really looking forward to see what the guys have to do. Success ballast from race 2. Some are going to lose it, some are going to gain it, and again, it's also seeing who gets pole position. So no, it's been a brilliant experience so far, and I've really enjoyed it.
Well, reverse grid number drawn was 9th, and that means that Lorenzo Turri will be on pole position. We'll run through the starting order when we go to the formation lap very, very soon as all the drivers are on the start-finish line ready to go. So 28 drivers set to get back into battle. Well, it looks like 27, my apologies there. So some of the drivers, one of the other things, Phil, that we forgot to mention is the fact that the soft has been the option tyre. And in many respects, just looking at some of the drivers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I count approximately 10 drivers out of the 27 have saved their softs for race 3. It's always nice when this mixes things up a little bit.
It does, because again, having the option tyre to be able to mix things up gives the guys an option to say, right, what can I do? Do you use it in the first race and get it out of the way? Do you leave it to the last race of the day and think, great, I'll just go with what I've got? It's also a case of how long it will last as well, how much grip it will give out before it decides to start degrading, compared to the standard tyres that the other guys are racing. So you're just throwing another element into the mix, the success ballast, the reverse grid, the extra tyre options, and it's just more for the guys to try and cope with and figure out what they've got beneath them.
Very true. As we just are awaiting the notification that we will be going racing very, very shortly here at the home of British Motorsport for the third and final race. The cars are looking like they're going to be ending up on the grid. Some are exiting the pit lane. So once we get the word to go, we'll run you through the starting order for race 3 here at Silverstone. Back in a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for the final race of the third round of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Phil Kinch, your commentators once again. But what is going to be an interesting reverse grid race. We've just been waiting for the cars to all make their way onto the grid ahead of the formation lap, and in that point, we'll then start running you through the starting order. But Phil, the reverse grid race always spices things up.
Oh, always. It's always a crowd pleaser. Again, you've got the faster cars at the back of the field, you've got slower cars at the front, and you've always got some of the guys who either haven't had a chance to get a race victory or, being a race-winning car, the opportunity to try and see what they can do and show what they can do out the front of the field. So yeah, it's going to be brilliant. Looking forward to this.
So we're just waiting at the moment for one car to join us. Air temperature down a couple of degrees to 22 degrees, but the track has increased by 2 degrees to 24 degrees Celsius, but also in hot weather conditions, even at a virtual Silverstone. Phil, you've been banging on about this until the cows come home, about they have to really take care of the tyres, and if they rip the softs a bit too much earlier on, trying to get away from people, they're going to lose traction, and obviously potential flat spots if they start braking when they're trying to keep going out away from everybody else.
Yeah, if you destroy the tyres too early, you are just going to fall down the field like a stone in water. So you have to look after them as much as you can, even in the heat that they're having to deal with. Slightly cooler at the, as you say, slightly cooler air temperature, which is going to help the engines a little. But yeah, you've got to look after the tyres, especially the guys on the soft option.
Right then, we're just moments away, waiting for the final. So we've got about just over 60 seconds or so remaining. But it's been a pleasure having you all joining us on the live stream via Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and also I think Periscope, if memory serves me correctly. So it's great to have you alongside me in the commentary box, Phil. Your touring car knowledge, I think a lot of people who know you very well indeed for what you do, and you're definitely a petrol head through and through, my friend.
Oh, it is the case. I answered a question on Twitter during the week how I got into it. I used to sit and watch touring cars with my dad years ago, like I say, 1988. So Saturday afternoons on Grandstand was where I learned to build my passion, shall we say, and was hooked on it ever since. So yeah, touring cars is just the absolute for me.
So that would have been in the days when Des Lyman had that fantastic, glorious mustache, didn't he?
Yes, that's it.
There we go.
Des Lynam, Bob Wilson, you name it. Yeah, we can go through them all.
and good old Murray Walker as well. And
yes.
Those were the days. Saturday mornings, Grandstand. Oh, crikey. We're both showing our age now, mate, aren't we?
Great hair, sprouting nicely.
Well, mine have been sprouting for a couple of years, I think. So, yeah. So we are just waiting for the warm-up session to time out, which is just done so. So very shortly, we will await for the drivers to be on the grid. Ahead of our third and final race here at Silverstone before we head to Thruxton on the 7th of July. And then 2 weeks later, we head to Alton Park on the 21st of July. Then a bit of a mid-season break to the 18th of August to Snetterton. And then Croft on the 1st of September. Knockhill, there's a provisional at the moment. We're just awaiting official clarification. 15th of the 9th. On that one, then the 29th of September, Silverstone International. So we head to the home of British Motorsport once again. And then the 13th of the 10th, that's the 13th of October, Brandon Grand Prix sees out the VMO Touring Car UK Championship, where we will crown one champion above all. And it looks like we are about to get things underway here, as it looks like the cars are about to be on the grid, ready for the formation lap, as we've just got the pre-race countdown getting underway. So we are just waiting to find out when everyone will be on the grid. So if you just bear with us, ladies and gentlemen. But Phil, the anticipation is at that point where no one knows what's going to happen in race 3, you or me, in any kind of respect or iota whatsoever.
I'm not even sat in a rig. I'm in the commentary box with yourself, and even I'm nervous. I could happily chew nails away thinking, oh, what could happen on this. I'm really looking forward to see the spectacle we get in the final race of the day. I can't even try and think of how the drivers are out there in the various rigs, just trying to make sure that they've got the car over set up as best they can. They've got it as much as they can cope with, dealing with the tyres, or just waiting for the lights to go out and see what they've got beneath them. It's just really, really exciting.
Yep. So just bear with me. I'm just sending a message to one of our main organisers because it looks like we have a problem for, I think it might be Sean King. But let's just have a look what we've got on the screen at the moment. We've got one of the cars, that will be Pete. So thank you very much to Mike Yao. Looks like Lewis McGlade wants to get a quick getaway in his Ford Focus, and that hasn't panned out well. Whoops. I think if you wanted to do a great escape, don't do it in a touring car trying to get around up over the bridge and then try and find your way out of the circuit. That's definitely calling some extracurricular activities, wouldn't you agree, Phil?
Oh, definitely. Marks for trying, 5 out of 10.
Oh dear! But at the end of the day, you got to have a laugh at these kind of things. So
it's definitely been an experience. I've really enjoyed myself, and like I say, the racing's been great. It's really good to see. There's a great field of cars there, 28 cars that have been in both races. Really good number of cars, and there's been fighting and action all the way through for either the lead, mid-pack, all the way to the back. Everyone pushing as hard as they can for positions. So yeah, it's been a really enjoyable experience.
And again, Lewis McGlade is trying to do the Great Escape. I'm just waiting for Steve McQueen and just saying, "Sorry, Lewis, cut it out, please." I mean, I'm just waiting for a motorcycle to jump the fence now. That's all I need, really.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
He's just passing the time. So we are just waiting. Third time's the charm, eh, Lewis? Oh my goodness me. He's no Travis Pastrana, unfortunately, and back in the pits he goes.
He's in the wrong type of Ford Focus for Rallycross anyway. We need to have the other type, just in case.
We need to speak to Ken Block. Has anyone got a contact for him?
Get on the phone. We need a Ford Focus here.
Yeah. So, right. They are starting to count down the grid once again. And the cars are starting to line up. And very shortly, we will go through the starting order for race 3 of round 3 here at Silverstone for the 2020 VMO Touring Car UK Championship. So the final few cars starting to line up, and when they do, let them go for the formation lap. We will go through the grid one final time. Here on Tuesday, the 23rd of June. So now the formation lap gets underway for one final time here at the home of British Motorsport, and your grid is as follows. It is a Smile Power Racing front row with Lorenzo Turri being drawn out of the hat for reverse grid pole here at Silverstone. Alongside him will be the number 5 of Mike Bell. Dan Kell and Scott Mitchell will be on row number 2 in the 89 and 22 respectively. Row 3, it's Max Tad from SRR with the Mr. I Like My Headlights Ablaze, thank you very much, in the 35, ahead of Kieran Shank in the number 16 from Frammy Autosports. We've got Lewis McGlade and Matt Richards, then Chris Butcher and Matthew Clipp from Smile Power Racing and Cadan Casual Apex, respectively. Just behind them is the 77 of Cam Sports Ben Brown and the David Racing Astra of Toby Davis in the 34. Then it's Ben Willis in the 85, Aidan Millward in the 67, Daniel Slattery in the 24, Costas Avram in the 26. Following that up will be Daniel Hyde and Jack Nichols in the 2 and 29 respectively, ahead of Frammy Autosports Robert Strachan, Sandro Ballesteros from EP Brit running at the top 20, And then it is Team Van der Vuder's Alexander Van der Vuder in the 38, with Tommy Foster from SRR Motorsport in the 35. Tom Edmonds from Frammy Autosport rounds out the top 23, ahead of Chris Wilson in the 68 from Cam Sport, Max Spooner from E-Team Brit in the 63 BMW, Bradley Brocky is also from E-Team Brit in the 105, and Sean King in the 23 from Cam Sport, rounding out the 27 that will go into battle one final time as they make their way onto the grid and get into positions. Phil, are the hairs on the back of your neck standing up on end? I hope they are.
I'm absolutely shaking with excitement. I want to see this get underway.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's not long now as we get into formation for the third and final time here at Silverstone, as Dan Hyde now gets into his correct grid position. Sean King will be at the back of the field before the green flag waves, and then we go racing one final time here at Silverstone. Hold on to your hats. Brace yourselves. It's going to get interesting here at the home of British Motorsports. Ladies and gentlemen, we are... Wait for it. Off and away. And what a start there from Max Tad. He's gone from 5th to 2nd before Copse. That's brilliant stuff. Got Mitchell. Well, that is Dan Kell around the outside of the BMW as they head through Copse for the first time. Down towards Maggots and Beckett's, and that's a clear lead for Lorenzo Turri. Tad trying to... It's 3 wide. Oh, it's going to get messy through into Maggots and Beckett's, and Tad, I think, might have come out on top. He has, and he's ahead of Mike Bell, who's side-by-side with the BMW, coming onto the Wellington Straight. Matt Richards and Lewis McGlade are literally side-by-side, but there's Toby Davis, ahead of Scott Mitchell, Chris Busher, P8, Dan Kell and Ben Willis. Now up into what is effectively the top 11. Jack Nicholls has made some headway up into P15 already. And Phil, already, it's become a bit of a free-for-all on lap 1.
Oh, it was fast to begin with from the start of the race. Bell's already had a showing in race 1, so we know what he's capable of. And Richards, well, he's been chasing the lead all day, so hopefully race 3 comes his way. But yeah, it's already kicking off.
Toby Davis looking very, very racy here as he's trying to go in between both McGlade and Tad, and that is effectively, if he gets through past the pair of them, he's got past one, he's got past Tad. Isn't he going to go for it on McGlade? Not quite yet. He's ahead of the BMW for the minute, as Richards in the slipstream of Bell, heading down the Wellington Straight down towards Brooklands and also Luffield. And a little bit of a lock-up there from several cars. I think Bell was one of them. McGlade, I think, was the other. Davis getting quite close in proximity. So very clean. Yellow in sector 3, however, so someone might have had an issue or had an off-track excursion. Jack Nicholls, again, trying to move up the order again. Scott Mitchell's dropped down into 10th position, and he's got Ben Brown in the number 77 Mercedes closing. That's a bit sideways from Max Tad. He caught that well. That was very much Tokyo Drift a la Fast and Furious from Max Tad. But he kept a hold of that one, didn't he, Phil?
He did, and then it's allowed Butcher to close on him as well. So while it looked great, it's also slow. And actually, Butcher's gone through on the inside as we go round to Beckett's and onto the back straight. So it's not really worked out too well for him.
Dan Kell definitely trying to get his way past Max Tad and looks to have a nose ahead heading into Brooklands. And here comes Clip as well from Cadan Casual Apex. Scott Mitchell goes around the outside of the MG. Trying to get the switchback coming through into Luffield. Can't get it through quite yet. But, oh my goodness me, as Lorenzo Turri is trying to pull away from teammate Mike Bell from Smile Power Racing. But they're only 0.235 of a second, make that 0.2 of a second, less than a 0.2. As again, Brown on the back bumper of Mitchell, so it's Mercedes v Mercedes in the final position in the top 10.
It looks as though Clip's also pushing Tad again as well as they're on the run into Beckett's. He's not allowing the BMW to get too far ahead of him. He's trying to see if he can make his way back forward in the field after his race 1 performance. And
unfortunately, we've had our first DNF, and it is team manager for E-Team Brit, Max Spooner in the 63. First retiree out of 27 cars still circulating here at Silverstone. Jack Nicholls is closing, and he's closing on Kieran Shanks. So that Subaru is trying to close up on Aidan Millward. And you got Ben Brown and Scott Mitchell, as here is Mitchell trying to go up the inside of Tad. Clip's got past the BMW. Here comes the Mercedes, but can't quite get through yet through Luffield and on the exit of Woodcote. And look at the front of the field. Richards Turi's lost the lead. He's down to P4 behind Richards and McGlade. Mitchell trying to go up the inside of Tad for P9 through Copse. And now it is a 5-car train. At the back of it is the reverse grid pole setter, Lorenzo Turi. As Richards trying to go the outside way round Bell for the lead. Richards has got the fastest lap, 58.454. But Phil, this is fast becoming a big-time train here. And it is the Mike Bell train once again.
It is exactly as we had back in race 1. It is the freight train, and this is what works the best. Everyone's going to start slipstreaming and pushing and trying to find the way through, trying to find for the smallest gap where possible and make a hole, even if there shouldn't be one. As again, you see Mitchell trying to go through on the inside of Tad. He's really pushing hard, Scott Mitchell, and he's definitely trying to make a way, but it's not looking as though it's worked out too well for him.
No, Ben Brown trying to keep with him. And then the other thing is that Jack Nichols is running in the 58.7s. Scott Mitchell had a howler of a lap last time around. I think it was the 1 minute 1. Ben Brown has lost a position to the number 22 from King's Racing, but they've been swapping positions like it's going out of fashion. And going through into Beckett's, Mitchell's still ahead at the moment, but Jack Nichols is catching the pair of them. But he's dropped down behind Kieran Shanks. So Shanks has got past the Mercedes. And now Nichols back on the comeback trail. He comes, and he's side by side with the Subaru at the minute. And they're all swarming all over each other. I mean, the thing is that the person that I could see profiting from this three-way scrap for the lead, Phil, is Toby Davis.
It is indeed. He's ideally placed. Same as with Shanks in race 2. Race 1 was a case of just sitting there and allowing the action to happen as he goes through. In fact, Davis is making a place. It's gone wrong.
It's gone wrong. He's gone up the inside, and it meant that he's been turned around. But such a brave fight from Toby Davis as he gets thrown out, and he's dropped down like a stone in the proverbial pond down to 18th position.
That's a shame. It looks as though we got some debris on the track as well. Let's seeing the replay here from the looks of things. So Davis has gone on the inside of Luffield. A perfect way to start an overtaking manoeuvre that should get him through at Woodcote. But there's quite a lot of contact going on there. And unfortunately, he's come across the front, and that doesn't really end well. It's
one of two things. It's whether he's come across McGlade or whether McGlade has actually turned in whilst Davis has got that inside line. So it's one of one and half a dozen of the other. Yep. So it could be classed as a racing incident, but obviously Stefan McCready will be the one looking at every single incident post-race, as there's a little bit of a clattering door panel to door panel between that is, as Richards goes up the inside of Butcher for the lead. That's McGlade, and that is with Matthew Clipp. Max Tad is just behind. Then you got the 55 of Lorenzo Turi. Ben Brown now up into P10. Kieran Shanks 11th. Jack Nichols 12th. Alexander van der Voorde, as again, the leaders are side by side down the Wellington Straight exit going into Brooklands, then into the right at Luffield. So hopefully, Butcher runs wide. That allows Bell to go through. Here's a look at the replay. Here's Davis and McGlade. So Davis trying to force the issue. Let's have a look. McGlade, I think, might have turned in. He might have turned in. So Toby Davis manages to rejoin, gets a 360 for his troubles. So we have had a second DNF, and unfortunately, Tommy Foster in the 35 has now made us drop down to 25 out of 27 drivers that started this race. We're now on to lap number 9, 22 here at Silverstone with Alex Goldschmidt and Phil Kinch in the commentary box. But what a move by Matt Richards, though, on Chris Butcher, because Butcher just went wide, didn't he?
He did indeed, and now it's up to Richards to stay in front. He worked so hard in race 1 to try and see if he could push Bell as hard as he could, and actually lost out to Shanks in the end before the end of the race. So Richards is overdue some glory here, and I think he needs to try and build a gap where he can. But in the meantime, we've still got this freight train going on. Any one of these guys, the slightest mistake and someone's going to get past or get hung out to dry. Richards just needs to concentrate on his race out front and build a gap.
Well, Phil, if I told you that the top 12 are separated by just 5 seconds...
that's not surprising at all.
No, that's not surprising at all, as it looks like Ben Brown is trying to go up the inside of Lorenzo Turi and has got the position. And the person that is in 12th place, Jack Nichols, trying to do his best to move forward. Scott Mitchell trying to close on, I think it's Max Tad just up ahead. Ben Brown getting a bit more adventurous. Here's a replay once again. And it's Ben Willis here. And who is behind him? That is Kieran Shanks. And Shanks just loses it through Beckett.
Yeah. That's a shame, unfortunately. It is always a pinch point, and we've seen cars go 2, 3, or even 4 wide into this. So unfortunately for Shanks, he's lost out on that one.
Yeah, as again, one of the Sancho cars runs wide. Then, you know what's really funny though, is we got all three of the Sancho SimSport cars. We've got Chris Butcher, who is ahead of Matt Richards apparently, but let's just have a look as things progress as they proceed further. It is Matt Richards ahead of Chris Butcher. Dan Kell trying to go up the inside into P3 in Cops, and he's got it through. Lewis McGlade is at the back of the 6-car train. Scott Mitchell in 7th ahead of Max Tad. So Scott Mitchell, let's have a look at his lap times. He was nearly 4 tenths quicker than Mike Bell. And now Bell going around the outside of Clip and also around the outside of McGlade going onto the Wellington Straight. Oh, this is getting more interesting. Even race 1 was, Phil.
Yep, definitely. They are all pushing each other as hard as they can get away with, and it's clean racing as well. That's been the impressive part. To throw a bit of reference on here, as we see Clip go around the outside, that bumper's still in the middle of the track. That's going to cause someone some fun. In fact, Clip goes around the inside of Bell as they go around Luffield and heading towards Woodcote, and he's managed to stick ahead. The Ford Focus itself normally goes well at Silverstone. 2 years ago, you had the motor race cars of Sam Tordoff and Tom Chilton utterly dominate the first 2 races of the day. So it's not surprising that the Focuses are at the front. However, it looks as though Butcher's managed to get past Richards. So the lead has changed again, and Richards has got to work to keep in place.
Lorenzo Turi now drops behind Jack Nichols. So Nichols now up into 11th position. I remember when Matt Jackson was with Motorbase in 2015, and he took the qualifying lap record and also the race lap record that same year at Silverstone National. So just shows how good a credence the Ford Focus has in touring car racing, and it's being exemplified here. But you've got Ford leading Vauxhall against Ford, against MG, against Ford, against Vauxhall, against Mercedes. You've even got a few BMWs in the mix with the likes of Max Tad currently being the highest placed BMW in 9th place in the 35 SRR Motorsport entry. But the gap still between Butcher and Richards, it's yo-yoing like a pendulum, Phil, that it's one way going in the favour of Richards, then it's going in the favour of Chris Butcher. Then Dan Kell thinks, well, I might be able to close up a little bit. It's about toing and froing here in touring car racing, isn't it?
It is. You've just got to be able to place the car at the right time on the right corner and be able to make the move stick. And at Silverstone, you're normally planning that 1 to 2 corners or even 3 corners before you want it to happen. So as soon as the car is hung out to dry, it's not just you that's going past, it's everyone else behind. If you're hung out on the dry line, you're done for.
And Matthew Clip trying to go up the inside of Dan Kell for P3 through Cops. MG can't quite get through yet because straight away what happened was, well, behind them, Lewis McGlade is going side by side with Mike Bell through into Magnussen Beckett's. McGlade will have the inside line, and just behind them is Kieran Shanks. And then just behind them is Scott Mitchell. So Scott Mitchell now in P8 ahead of Ben Brown, Max Tad and Jack Nichols. Max Tad, having dropped a little bit further down the order than he probably would have liked, we're now on board with our 5th place driver, Lewis McGlade. And just up ahead is Matthew Clip, Dan Kell, Matt Richards and Chris Butcher. Now, interesting, Phil, that the graphics down on the bottom right-hand corner just show you how hard these tyres are working. The front tyres are being absolutely tortured because on the front-wheel drive cars, it's not just the power that you've got to put through them, it's also the steering.
Exactly, and you're pushing those as much as you can. Obviously the guys are going as fast as they possibly can around the track, but you've got to make those front tyres last as well. You can push, you've got to turn, you've got to put the power through, pull off your overtaking moves, but you've still got to make sure those tyres last the race, and especially if they're on the soft option tyres, that's a further challenge to make them last as long as they can. Once they start going off, the grip isn't there, and then you are sliding back down the order.
So we just keep on board with Lewis McGlade for a moment. 5th gear, 90 kilometres an hour, heading up to Brooklands, up from 6th, braking at about 219 kilometres an hour. It's just under 140 miles per hour. Oh, there's been a bit of an incident. Butcher and Richards have come together, and Richards has dropped like the proverbial stone. Good thing we got that grade on board from Lewis McGlade there, as Dan Kell now has the lead ahead of Matthew Clip and Chris Butcher, who are side by side through the final corner through Woodcote. This has changed everything now, Phil.
Yeah, that's changed the order completely as Dan Kell comes to the front. And as I said, the slightest bit of contact, the slightest miscut, misbraking, and all it's going to take is for a small mistake and someone's going to go backwards. And unfortunately, it is Richards that's happened to.
So Chris Butcher still always collided with Matthew Clip. So 2 incidents for 2 small power car racings. Power racing cars. I think Chris Butcher was actually involved in both. Let's have a look at the replay here. So this is Butcher on Richards. So Richards is ahead by about just over half a car length. Butcher's turned him round.
Yeah, and that's the contact, and that's all it's taken. It spun the focus round. Richards was ahead, Butcher wasn't, so you can actually say it was Richards' corner, but drivers are going to go for corners and push what they can.
So at the moment, this has really changed the order of things, as it's now Azancho Simsport 1-2 with Dan Kell in the 89, leading Lewis McGlade by 1.2 seconds. Mike Bell might have a couple of cars for company at the very least, as Scott Mitchell and Kieran Shanks are trying to get their way up close and personal with a number 5. And there is Mitchell. He's going towards the outside of Mike Bell. This could be very interesting going into Maggots and Beckett's. Here's a replay here, and this is Butcher. And again, the same things happened with him and Clip, and Clip's just been had nowhere else to go.
It's not as if he can lift off, they go in as fast as they can into Beckett's and braking hard before they turn the right hand side. So it's not really on when you've got a bit of contact on the back corner of the car. The car in front, it's going to go round. So whether the stewards want to have a look at that one, we'll see.
There's also been an incident involving Scott Mitchell, who was in P4. He's now in P9 as he's just got past Lorenzo Turi. Now, whether there was contact between him and Kieran Shanks, because Shanks was on the back bumper. Now, I did notice that Scott was actually closing on Mike Bell for P3 and could have actually had that possibility. We're now on to lap number 18 out of 22 here at Silverstone to conclude the action for round 3 of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. Here's a replay. Shanks is right up behind Mitchell. Now, did he get the slightest of rubs from behind? I would love to see an onboard from Shanks. But whether Scott might have gone in a bit too hot, it's a bit of one and one of the other, isn't it, really, Phil, on that particular situation, because it was too close to call. It
is, unfortunately, half and half, and the slightest bit of contact again being involved, whether Mitchell's been run out wide by Shanks, and unfortunately he's not been able to. In fact, there we go, there's the replay. Perfect angle.
Okay, let's have a look. I did like the sticker. My other car's a GPVWC supercar. Nice one there, guys. That's brilliant. So now he's ahead of teammate Jack Nichols, who now is up into 9th place, and Nichols has now got past the reverse grid pole position sitter of Lorenzo Turi, standing in for Scott Stovic. But now Dan Kell is comfortably leading the 1-2. Shanks is trying to go for a podium here after his race 1 victory, and he's got Mike Bell side by side with him as they go through Luffield. Sorry, no, that's through Beckett's, going through into the Wellington Straight. As again, Max Tad, please turn the headlights off. I'm wondering how many people are going to protest that after the race as Shanks goes for it on the inside of Bell, going through into Brooklyn. So that was a bit run wide, and he has a little bit of the paint swap there. But here is Ben Brown, and Ben Brown's been doing a great race here in the number 77 Mercedes. He's closing. So the Subaru in the first race ran away with it, and in races 2 and 3, Phil, it's been a completely different tale, different side of the coin for Kieran Shanks.
It has indeed. Whilst he's making the tyres last and he's fighting, he's making his way up, you can still tell that the extra weights from the success ballast from race 2 at least, and whatever he's managed to lose from race 1, what he's lost from race 2 and the BOP is hurting him, so he's not able to fight as hard as he was in race 1, unfortunately. But that's not stopping him from fighting. He's fighting as hard as he can, along with Bell, Butcher and Brown in the mix as well.
Yeah, so when they went through Beckett's, Shanks forced Bell wide, and that allowed Butcher and Brown to get through, and Shanks is at it again. I mean, he's not giving up in any way, shape or form. He's lost a bit of rear end traction.
Sideways, and there's contact there with Brown as they're coming into Luffield, and he's round. Yeah.
Well, I think taste of the own medicine might be what Ben Brown is saying as Scott Mitchell now turns him round and Jack Nichols up the inside. Oh my goodness me.
Typical race 3 from a touring car race.
We're on to lap number 21 out of 22 here at Silverstone, and Ben Brown is holding on for dear life ahead of the two Smile Power racing cars of Chris Butcher and Mike Bell. Jack Nicholls now up into P7, chasing down Max Tad. And if I'm completely honest here, Phil, Jack Nicholls does have a chance to the podium, because, as we said, anything can happen. And Max Tad nearly goes up into the side door of Mike Bell. And Nicholls gets a really good run. He's got a triple toe by the cars in front. Max Tad now flashing the lights as if to say, "Oi, get out of the way."
As if we can't miss Max Tad at all. With, headlights firmly on in every race he's been in. It's a great job from Nicholls as well. He's made his way back up from earlier down in the field. He's worked hard. He's got his elbows out, and he's really pushing for it. So it's good to see him getting really stuck in.
Yeah, P19 was where Jack started after serving a drive-through in race number 2. So he's got pace in that Mercedes. We go on to the penultimate lap here at Silverstone, and the lead still has extended by over double between Dan Kell and Lewis McGlade. Let's have a look at a replay here. This is Kieran Shanks. He tries to throw it up the inside of Ben Brown. Chris Butcher and Mike Bell not too far behind. But this is where he loses the back end, going sideways through Brooklands, batters into the side of Brown. But then the thing is he tried to turn in, and that's a bit of a difficult one to call there.
It is a difficult one. It's almost as if he wasn't far enough ahead and Brown is still there. And then contact from Mitchell to add for the fun of it. It's a Mercedes attack on the Subaru. It's brilliant.
Well, I think one good shove deserves another, as they say in touring cars. But Jack Nicholls now has got past Max Tad. That's the more interesting development here. But look at how far Brown and Butcher are away from Bell. And Bell has got Nicholls chasing him down. Nicholls is basically smelling the fumes off of the virtual exhaust pipes on the Vauxhall Astra, as we're now on to the final lap here at Silverstone to conclude round 3 of the virtual motorsport online touring car UK Championship here at Silverstone National. So they fly their way through. Bit of a lock up there from Butcher there, as Max Tad. Has he got the headlights on behind Jack Nicholls? I would say Kel Bon Surprise probably not. Oh yes, he has still. He's just trying to intimidate Jack Nicholls. I'm sorry.
He's just trying to scare him off the track. It's not going to happen.
Jack is just looking forward. That's all he's got to try and concentrate on doing. As Scott Mitchell trying to go around the outside of one of the Smile Power Astras. And that does not pay well for him. And that was Lorenzo Turi trying to get past. And here is the recovering Matt Richards. But very shortly, we will see our race victor. And it is checkered flag for Dan Kell. And Lewis McGlade makes it a Sancho Simsport 1-2 here in race 3. Ben Brown will take P3 ahead of Chris Butcher and Mike Bell. Jack Nicholls from 19th to 6th. A fantastic recovery drive from the number 29 Kings Racing Mercedes. Max Tad in 7th. Lorenzo Turi, our reverse grid pole sitter, in 8th ahead of Kieran Shanks and Scott Mitchell. Matt Richards, after an incident earlier on in the race, would finish in P11 ahead of Ben Willis and Costas Avram. Matthew Clipp and Tom Edmonds rounded out the top 15. The KR Sport driver normally is found in a senior Rotax in the number 15, rounding out the top 15 positions ahead of Robert Strachan, Chris Wilson, Daniel Hyde, Aidan Millward, Sean King, Toby Davis, Sandro Ballesteros, Bradley Brockes, with Bradley Brockes actually pitted on the last lap ahead of Alexander van der Voorde, who retired on lap number 17 ahead of Daniel Slattery, Tommy Foster and Max Spooner, who retired on lap number 3. But Dan Kell and Lewis McGlade make it a Sancho Simsport 1-2 here in race 3. What a race, Phil.
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant. It's exactly what you expect from the final race of the day. You've got fast drivers out of position, different option tyres in place, and you've also got the success bias playing its part. And you've got everyone trying to go for the final race of the day and see if they can get the best result possible. Some great racing there.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in just a moment with hopefully some interviews of our top 3 before we conclude the broadcast here at the VMO Touring Car UK Championship here at Silverstone National. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a chat with our winner for race 3 from Sancho Simsport, taking a welcome opportunity, Dan Kelt. Dan, brilliant job. Well done.
Cheers to that. It was a tough one. I thought after the first corner it was all over with getting a slight tap and moved down to P8, but managed to work my way through and get the victory.
It's been an interesting season so far, hasn't it? And, not everyone's been able to sort of make it work, but we've had different winners in different race weekends. But we go to Thruxton in just a couple of weeks' time. You're looking forward to that particular track?
Yeah, it should be good. I've always gone quite well there, so I'm hoping for another good result, and really looking forward to it.
Yeah. So obviously, it being a Sancho 1-2 with Lewis McGlade rounding out it, 2 Sancho focuses in the top 2. That must be a good feeling, obviously, with the team standings and moving forward ahead for the next round. Yeah,
definitely. It's very good to see the 1-2. I think it's first of the season.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very, very happy to have it so early on as well, considering we're only at round 3 as well.
Very, very true. Dan, many congratulations for the race 3 victory. We'll see you in a couple of weeks at Thruxton.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
So now we'll go to Ben Brown. Ben, great race out there. Lots of pushing and shoving, but you came through it fairly unscathed, didn't you?
The damage all over the car doesn't say unscathed, but yeah, that one was fun. That was had the softs on and just tried to stick to the back of people to get the draft, and then wait for people to fall off, and then still had some tyres left at the end. Just as you might have noticed, it was a little bit leery, but yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah, definitely. But obviously this gives you a good bit of motivation heading into round 4 at Thruxton next time out in a couple of weeks. Obviously that's something to build on now, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's taken a little bit of time to get used to doing your own setup, and obviously use the rig at home as well for this sort of thing. But it just needs to improve qualifying, I think, get a bit further forwards for the races. That's the main thing. So the race pace was there. It was just getting past people. Unfortunately, it's quite difficult to overtake here, and Thruxton can be a bit of a pain as well. So we'll put some practice in, try and improve the setup a little bit, and see how Thruxton goes.
So really good to see you guys running the Anxiety UK on your cars as well. That's really, really nice to see. Obviously, making awareness of anxiety, which quite a few people these days. How did you get involved with working with them, and obviously having the logo on your car as well? Because it's a point we need to bring up these days. In this day and age.
It was something I've been suffering from for 16, 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I use to deal with it is this. So last season in the Clios at Simply Race, I decided to contact Simply Race, to contact Anxiety UK. Done a few bits for them before, and then was like, I'm just gonna put Anxiety UK all over the car. Is that all right? They said yes immediately. Decided to carry it through. We've decided to go with more personalised liveries on the Cam Sport cars for this. A little bit different. Usually we have similar designs, but yes, because we were deciding to do our own cars and stuff, it just made sense. It's something that I deal with that, especially a lot previously, and I know especially at the minute with lockdown and stuff, it's something that crops up with people. So if you've got any issues, check Anxiety UK out. They're really, really, really helpful. So can't recommend enough.
Really, really glad to hear that story, Ben, and all the very many congratulations for your P3 finish here at Silverstone.
Cheers, thank you very much.
Right, I think we are waiting, hopefully, for... Well, we've got another driver with us, one that I recognise from a couple of championships. I think Chris Butcher is in with us. Chris, bit of a interesting 3 races here at Silverstone, wouldn't you say at the very least?
Yeah, just a little bit, but I guess it comes with the territory with these cars sometimes.
And obviously, from a perspective, Scott not being here this weekend, but how do you think Lorenzo did? Because obviously he was put on reverse grid pole. It's not easy to start from there and still manage to get a top 10 finish at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he didn't have a massive amount of experience in these cars, so he's sort of done his best to keep his nose clean. And I think to finish in the top 10 in a pretty competitive field is a pretty good job.
No worries. Well, thank you very much, Chris. Look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at Thruxton, and hopefully things work a bit more better for you guys at Smile Power Racing next time out.
Thank you.
Well, I think that's possibly about all the time that we've got here for the third round of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship here at Silverstone. Phil, have you enjoyed yourself?
Yes, I have. It's been a fantastic evening, a real pleasure and an experience to be involved in this. And I just want to say thank you very much for having me. It's been great fun.
Well, let's see if we can get you back for Thruxton, shall we?
If you really want, if I've been that good, I'll see how I go.
Definitely. Well, myself, Alex Goldschmidt and Phil Kinch will be your commentators for round 4 at Thruxton in just 2 weeks' time when we carry on the journey, the 2020 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. Join us then. See you in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching.